Pastor Maloney from the lovely island of St. Vincent. I have my lovely wife with me. She has several sisters. And it was so happened that Jesse, you know Jesse? Both of us were at a conference. And he introduced his wife and whatnot, and said, he has of the sisters, his wife is really beautiful. He was trying to poke me. I said, no problem, no problem. Your wife is beautiful. But among all the sisters, I have the most beautiful one. All right? So we happy. You made mention of talking about the ministry. Normally, we work together as a team. I don't do well with that, talking about ministry, because I find it difficult to do. So she does that. So later, she would say something about that, but I'll just say, so far, we have been where we are for over 20 years now, and the Lord has really been good towards us. When we got there first, one of the things we observed is that where we were meeting was really, really hazardous. A big bank to the back of the building. When you come out the church, about 3 feet, there's a big drop over right in the road. Your wife was there. And one of the things the Lord laid on our heart when we got there is we need to move from here. I was hoping that it would have taken less time. I was hoping. We, thank God, we're in the process of, well, moving from there. Because we're constructing a building now. We have just gone past the foundation. We're now getting ready to lay the first concrete slab to put on blocks. That's going to be the sanctuary. Above that now we're going to have a children's home that's going to cater for the need of the less fortunate. Thank God there is this guy from the States, Brother Tony, who has come alongside us, and he is he's really helping us through an organization called Yes Ministries. You can look it up. It's really, because he has his heart is in that kind of thing. And we really thank God for that. I also want to thank God for Enterprise Baptist Church, pastor, wife, and members, for seeing it fit to invest in us. And as your pastor mentioned, investing in us before they know us, in the sense of getting to meet me and to see if their money, if I worth that investment. Thank God. And we are eternally grateful for your support, financially and prayerfully. Thank you so much. Haggai, the book of Haggai. And also thank you for the invitation for being at your missions conference. And there's a lovely lady in your midst who, well, now she's a member of Enterprise Baptist Church, but she started at Grace Baptist Church. Vanessa Foyle. Yeah, that's where she came from. Yeah. Haggai chapter number 1. I'm just going to read verse 5. Then you're going to have your seats, and I'm going to say something, and then we're going to keep on going. Now, therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Now, therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. May I have your seats, please? The children of Israel are now back home from their Babylonian captivity because one King Cyrus of Persia ordered them to. After returning home, the Jews I'm talking about, they started to rebuild their temple that was destroyed, or God's house. Then for, I believe, reasons not stated, but we can think, the work stopped. And the work was halted for over a year. Not because there was a lack of talent, men or individuals to do the work. Not because there was a lack of materials or treasure to do the work. Because if you look closely, or you would observe it in a minute, in verse 10, let me not jump there so fast. And not because they had no time why the work stopped. Because there were people who could have done the work. Material was there to get the work done, and they had time. But for whatever reason, they stopped. You see, the people of God had become indifferent to the word and to the work of God, the things of God. In other words, they had developed the wrong attitude towards the work of God, which resulted in the wrong action towards it. It is often said, attitude determines one's altitude. But I just want to go one step further. Attitude affects one's action. Because most of the time you act or don't act based on your attitude really. But in relation to God, attitude determines or dictates how far you will go with God and how far you will go for God. There's a difference between those two statements. How far you will go for God, what you will do for Him, and how far you will go with Him. That is, He and you together going and do the work. As a result of their their indifference to God's work, and the wrong attitude, this got God's attention. And God said to the prophet, in the second year of Darius the king, I'm reading now from verse 1, in the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the first day of the month, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet unto Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, This people say the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. Then came the word of the Lord by the Haggai the prophet, saying, It is time for you, O you, to dwell in your seal houses. And this house, or this my house, or this the temple, lie waste. Now therefore, consider your ways. You have sown much, bring in little. You eat, and you have not enough. You drink, but you are not filled with drink. You clothe you, but there is no warmth. And ye that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. Thus said the Lord of hosts, the second time, consider your ways. Go to the mountain. Here is why I said there was not the materials were available. Because here is God's instruction to them now. Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, said the Lord. You look for much, and lo, it came to little. And when you brought it home, it did blow away. Sorry, I did blow up on it. Why? Said the Lord of hosts, because of my house that is waste, and you run every man unto his own house. Therefore, the heavens over you is stayed from dew, and the earth is stayed from her fruit. I called for a drought upon the land, and upon the mountains, and upon the corn, and upon the new wine, and upon oil, and upon that which the ground bringeth forth, and upon men, and upon cattle, and upon all the labor of the hands. There are certain things that prayer will never affect. Only obedience to God will. That's for another time. But it's taken directly from this verse here. Twice in this passage before us, God appealed to his people to consider their ways. The first time, it is my opinion that he was mild and a bit gentle when he said to them first, consider your ways. But the second time he used these words, consider your ways, in verse 7, he was a bit more forceful, because clearly you could have seen that, or sensed from the words, that there was a bit of agitation. He was kind of angry. Because notice what he says after the last, consider your ways. He said, now go to the mountain. It's like, I'm angry. Go to the mountain and I want this thing to be done. So notice that I will have pleasure and I will be glorified. Notice what he said would happen the second time if it didn't follow. I personally will intervene, and I will cause the heavens not to give her rain. I will ensure that whatever you do will not prosper. You see, you're going to work twice as hard, but you're going to get less. You're going to do a lot more, but the return would be less. Because there is absolutely no reason why my work is like this. There's no good reason. It so happened that these words, consider your ways, lend themselves to two applications. Because that's where I want us to go this morning. First of all, God asked these people to consider their ways in light of him, his work. Consider your ways in light of my house. And you get that from verse 4. But God also asked them to consider their ways in light of what
is happening to them. Look at verse 6. You have sown much, but you bring in little. You're doing all these things, but nothing is happening. Therefore, consider your ways. Consider your ways. You see, do you want things to still happen the way that things are happening? Or do you want a change? It's up to you. Consider your ways. What we're going to do this morning, we're going to look at this, the first one, in light of God. And this evening, if this is where the Lord wants to take me, I will look at consider your ways in light of yourself. Father, I ask that you would use your word to speak to our hearts this morning as only you can. Help me to say only the things that will bring honor and glory to you and be helpful to your people. Let only Christ be seen, be exalted, be magnified this morning. For we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I think brother or pastor and I were talking, and he was mentioning some things. And I said to him, well, no, I didn't say to him. I allowed him to talk, and I said to myself, the man is just describing what is going on back home in St. Vincent. And I said to him, and I said to myself, people are the same wherever you go. What I'm talking to you about here happened thousands of years ago. But it's amazing how the same indifference towards God and his work and his word back then is basically what is being experienced today. You know why? Because people are the same wherever you go. Whether in St. Vincent, Trinidad, whether you're in Israel or America, it doesn't matter where you are, people tend to behave the same. So this message is timely. Consider your ways in light of God. The first thing I want us to pay attention to is this word consider. What does this word consider mean? This word consider means to give mental attention with an intention to something. In other words, it doesn't simply mean a mere glance or a mere thought. It means that you're going to apply yourself and you're going to focus on something mentally. That's what it means. Because inside this word wraps up urgency and time and intensity. You're going to really sit and you're going to think about it. You're not just going to just a mere glance over. No. God wants us to really sit and look at your lives in light of Him. And then the next word is ways. It doesn't really here mean so much so your actions. It means the path that you are on, or the road you are traveling on, or your course. So in light of God, seriously, and with all the intensity and with all the urgency, in light of God, examine your path, the path that you are on, the course that you are taking where God is concerned. And I believe God asked them to do this for two reasons. Number one, judge whether or not I am first place in your life. In other words, judge, consider seriously where I am in relation to you. Am I first, middle, or last? Where I am. Because only you would know that. Only the children of Israel then. Not even Zerubbabel, not even Joshua. That's why God said, consider your. The word your there could mean collectively, but it also could apply individually. So consider your ways in light of me, and you judge where I am with you. Am I Matthew chapter number 6, verse 33 in your life? Or am I Revelation chapter number 3 and verse 20? Outside, knocking, wanting to come in. Where I am. I'm going to come back and deal with that. But secondly, God wanted them to, in relation to him, to consider their ways as to how their action is affecting him. Verse 8. What does verse 8 say? God said, because of what is happening, I'm not joyful. You notice he used the word pleasure? I'm not having any pleasure. But you notice he also used the word glorified? I am not glorified. You know what that word glorified means? I am being reproached. That's what the word glorified means, reproached. In other words, people are looking at my house. I don't know who, whether the children of Israel or other, and they're laughing. So, in other words, I am like a laughing stock now. Consider how your ways are affecting me. No pleasure. I have no joy. But above all, and this is why I believe, secondly, when God used the second, consider your ways, he was so angry. Because you know what God says, my glory I will give to no other. And your action is affecting my glory. Your action is causing people to look at me in a way that they ought not to be looking at me. That's why I will ensure these things happen to you. So let's consider the first of these two reasons why God asked them to consider their ways, in light of where he is in their lives. Where is God in your life? Look at verse 2. Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, this people say, the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. In other words, this is God is saying. These people are saying, well, God, you're no longer important to me, because it's not time for me to do your work now. God, it's not your time yet. Imagine that the giver of time is being told that I don't have time for him. The one who controls all the time, the one who decided that if he's going to take that time from me, I have no time to do anything. But I'm telling him, it's not your time yet. In other words, I'm telling God, God, you have to wait behind there until it's convenient for you, for me to bring you forward. Friends, you see the audacity of this thing here? I am telling God, I am put you on reserve until I have time for you, then I'll come back and get you and do what I have to do for you. Isn't that what we see today among a lot of God's people? As the songwriter puts it, time for pleasure, time for, but no time for Christ the crucified. Look at verse 4. I know it's not time for me because why? It is time for you. Oh, you to dwell in your sealed houses. And the idea behind the word sealed here is not just when you look at this ordinary sealing here, it talks about it's time for you to live in luxury. That's the idea behind the word sealed here. Because it's a word that is used when you talk about king and royalty. It's okay for mine to be shabby. But it's all right for yours to be expensive. And great. Look, friend, don't get me wrong. God is not condemning their having stuff. God is simply condemning where they place him. The stuff now are more important to them than to God. That's where the gift now is greater than the gift of the gift. That's where desire of the creature is more important now than devotion to the Creator. That's where the position of the Creator is now occupy the place where the Creator ought to be. Is now where the creature is. And the Creator is somewhere down the road. Friend, where is God in your life? Is God priority in your life? In my life? Is he priority? I want to show you in a minute what priority to God looks like. I'm going to show you in a minute. Let's first of all understand what priority to God looks like. Let's go to a simple passage in Matthew chapter number 4. Matthew chapter number 4. Matthew chapter number 4. To the average reader, this might not mean anything much. Matthew chapter number 4 and verse 1. What does Matthew chapter number 4 and verse 1 says? These words. Matthew chapter number 2 and verse 1. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Do you see anything special in those words in relation to priority to God? That's why I said to the average reader, this doesn't really mean, all it's saying is that wise men came to visit Jesus. But look at those words, from the east to Jerusalem. That is not an ordinary distance there. It's not like, well, I don't know the place properly, so I really can't say. It's not like walking a block or two on good road, or proper road. It's not like getting in your private vehicle or catch a maxi taxi or something, and you go from point A to point B. Behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. That's a very, very, very long distance. Traveling was extremely difficult because of robbery and everything. But look at what priority to God looked like. Distance did not stop them from being where they ought to be in relation to God, because you know why? God was their focus. God was priority in their life. So even if they had to travel on camels night and day, even if they had to sleep under the clouds, they were willing to sacrifice everything to go there.
I don't know how it's like in Trinidad, but back home, you know, there was a time when actual rain used to stop people from coming to church. But you know what's stopping some people from coming to church now? A dark cloud. Oh, it's going to rain. The rain start to come in now. The rain start to come in. They see a dark cloud. Oh, it's going to rain, so we can't go. And sometimes the rain even come. Oh, sorry about that. That's our dialect. Did you understand? Rain not even come? Okay. The actual rain. There are some people that even if you take the church right by their doorstep and they have to walk, come out, they're going to tell you that's still too far. But hear that now. The same set of people, Monday morning, even if they have to catch 3-4 buses to go to their work, distance ain't going to stop them. Distance only stop us when it comes to God. You know why? Because He is not our priority. Because if God were our priority, nothing would stop us. Because we would understand that He gives everything. Everything. The next example I want to use is found in 2 Corinthians chapter number 8. And this one dovetails right into the theme of the conference, missions. Second Corinthians chapter number 8. And many of us will not be like this church here, because I don't think they will, among church folks, I don't think that level of poverty exists anymore. This church here. Remember, we were looking at what priority towards God looked like. The wise men, distance didn't stop them. The elements did not stop them. Nothing. Their focus was on Him, and that's where we're going. We're going to Jerusalem. Regardless of all the obstacles they have to go over, we are going to Jerusalem. Now look at this church. Moreover, brethren, we do you to wait of the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, how that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and of their deep poverty, underline those words, we're going to come back to those words, their deep poverty abound unto the riches of their liberality. For to their power I bear record, yea, and beyond their power they were willing of themselves, praying us with much entreaty that we should receive the gift and take upon us the fellowship of the ministry of the saints. Priority to God reveals itself, according to this church, in putting His service above personal need. Putting His service above personal need. You see, they did not use their condition, and what was their condition? Deep poverty. Deep poverty here carries the idea here, they were poor beyond poor. Poor beyond poor. Think about people who are poor, and they were double times that. In fact, they were so poor that Paul realized their condition, and Paul said, please don't give. You need it for yourself. And you know what they said to Paul? Paul, please don't stop us from getting involved in this. But we have some people today who don't even want to give out of their abundance. They don't. Friend, I'm showing you what priority to God looks like. How that in great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy, and in their deep poverty, their rock bottom poorness,
So much so that Paul realized their condition and said, please, you don't have to give. We know you need it. Yes, we understand your heart's desire, but it's beyond you physically. They said to Paul, Paul, please don't stop us. It might have been, well, I almost said it might have been their account. Well, they didn't have any account. So they couldn't have gone to the bank and take out something and say, let me bring this to Paul. These are individuals. I don't know if this is going to sound correctly English, but probably you might get the sense. These are individuals who are willing to give Paul out of their nothingness. For those who know English, I mean, if it was wrong, that's all right. Out of their nothingness, they said, Paul, take it. Because there are those individuals over there who are doing the work of God who need it. And that's where this thing comes in. Mission. Missions. And there are three reasons as I bring this thing to an end as to why they were so eager for Paul to take it, even in spite of their condition. The first reason I believed is found in this very said chapter, verse 9. Why they wanted Paul to give. They want to give Paul. Verse 9 says, for ye know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that through that he was rich, yet for our sake, or your sake, he became poor, that you through him might become rich. In other words, this was the mindset of those believers at Macedonia. Paul, you might think that we are poor because we don't have it physically or materially to give. But when we consider our position in Jesus Christ and what he has gone through for us and where he has placed us, Paul, we are mightily rich. And for God, I can do anything. That's what they're saying here. Because of God's example, Paul, he who had everything, yeah, physically is beyond us, financially is beyond us, materially is beyond us. But when we consider what Christ has done for us, we are rich. And Paul, absolutely nothing. I cannot limit my involvement in the things of God because of my present condition. No, man, that will be an insult. That will be an affront to what God has done for me. I can't allow that. So that's the reason, I believe, number one, why they beseech Paul, they beg Paul, please do not stop us from getting involved. But here's the second reason why I believe they encouraged Paul, or they were so adamant that Paul take it. Go back forward. Verse 5. Not only because of Christ's example, but here's the reason why. And this they did not as we hope, but they first gave their own selves to God. Here's the reason right there why it's so difficult for believers today, in spite of our abundance, to get involved or to give to God, is because God doesn't have us yet. And if God doesn't have the man, God cannot have his money. If God doesn't have the man, God cannot have his hands or his feet. Can't. Just doesn't work there. And sometimes, I remind myself over and over as a preacher. Sometimes we come up and we labor on certain subject, and it's like we're flogging a dead horse, because we know, we look at them and we see there is no commitment where God is concerned, but we want them to give. They're not going to give. You know where our priority should be, Pastor? First of all, get them to commit themselves to God, and then we don't have to preach anything about giving. They're going to give. Get them to commit themselves to God, and we don't have to tell them to come to church. They're going to want to come to church. You see, obedience or disobedience to God or in the things of God is a sure sign that God is not a priority to you. He's not a priority. He's not first place. Disobedience to God is a sure sign that God has you have left God somewhere. First love, you have left your first love. So they first gave themselves to God, and they realized that now everything I have belongs to God. Everything I have. Another reason why I believe that these individuals beseech Paul so much to take it is because of Acts chapter number 1 and verse 8. Now, believers, hear me well. Every child of God has a responsibility to reach the world for God. Every child of God, because he says, go ye therefore into all the world. But practically, you know what? We all can't do it. Practically. But you know in which real sense we all can do it? By getting involved in those lives who are doing it. You see, I should be in Africa, reaching people for God. But me can't go there. So you know what I do? I get involved in people's life who are in Africa doing that. So their thinking was, God, and Paul, I should be the one. So, no, Paul, we know the purpose for why you're collecting these things. It's to give to those who are out there doing the work of God that I should be doing. And because it's impractical for me to go and do it, I'm willing to assist those so that they can get it done. Because of God's exhortation. Why they think it? Finally, they were willing, they were begging Paul to take it because of God's, not only his example in the person of Jesus Christ, his exhortation in Acts, but his expectation. In Matthew, I saw Matthew this morning. Yeah, Matthew chapter number 20 and verse 19. You know what the construction of the verse there really means? When he said, go ye therefore into all the world. Here's the construction of the world, having gone. You see, it is not like a command to go. What God is saying, having gone, this is something that you're doing already, and I just want you to add these things to them. Baptizing them, teaching them, and do. So in other words, it's God's expectation that we are already involved in his service. We are doing it already. We are doing it. It's not like we have to be flocked to do it. No. This is something that we see. And by the way, you know your greatest mission field is where you are? If you're working in an office, that's your greatest mission field. If you're at school, that's your greatest mission field. Because you see, you're going to reach people there that your pastor, his wife, and you really can't reach. Let me close with these statements. God will not have or cannot, really don't know how to construct it, but you're going to get the sense of it. God, you're going to find difficulty to be involved in God's service until you fully surrender to God. That's where it starts. You see, God can never have your hands until he has your heart. He must have to have your heart before you're willing to use these hands to do anything for him. You see, God will never have your feet until your faith in him is what it ought to be. Will never. And God will never have your, as the Bible puts it, mammon or money until he is the master of your life. Until God become the master of your life, nothing ain't going to happen. Remember, our theme is consider your ways. I believe for the time I spent up here talking, somewhere, somehow, God might have crossed certain things in your mind. You might start to kind of mentally think about, well, I wonder where God is in light of me. In light of my, I mean, on the scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. Is he number 2? Is God a 9 for you? Is he a 9? You know the beauty about this? Only you know. It's only you know. It's a personal thing between you and your God. And the sad thing about this, God will only be where you put him. I often said, if I were God, I would never give man a privilege to decide what you want to do for me. I'm not going to make you do it. So if you don't want to go this way, I'm going to lift you up and show you I have the power to put you there. But he's not like that. He gives man a free will. He wants us to choose. He wants us to love him willingly and get involved. There's another aspect that God wants us to consider our ways in light of him. What is your life doing to God? Is your life causing people to glorify God? Or is your life causing people to say, God, well, if he's a Christian, me, I want to. But that's for some other time. Pastor.
We pray that the will of God
Lord, help me to stop making the excuses to grow in His grace